And we are back for part two, everyone. Hello. We had to lose a couple people in the first part, but that is quite all right. We are ready to go here for the second question, the second set of questions. Let me just pull them up real quick. All right, question three. How did you change your behavior in your relationships, like during the transition of schools? We'll start off with Caleb.
For me, I know most of the questions have been around like elementary and middle school, but a lot of these questions aren't really even pertinent to me until I was like well into my teenage years, trying to navigate like high school. Um, for me, I lived in a bubble. I was homeschooled. I hung out with old people. I didn't have, like fire drills and things like that, like some of the other guests have been talking about. And I was perfectly content to just kind of live my life going through, hanging out with old people and, old people. I mean, they were like 40, 50, but, I didn't really have that problem until I was a teenager. And then one of my older friends took me aside and said, "Hey, look, you have got to figure out how to navigate relationships with people your own age. You've got to. Because at some point you're going to wake up one day and there's not going to be people older than you that you can hang out with. They're either going to be dead or they're going to be on oxygen. You've got to figure this out." And forced me to really take a hard look at myself and go, all right, I've got to get out of this bubble. And at that point, I started trying to hang out with people my own age, even though, I kind of went in with a lot of walls up, saying, all right, like there's going to be a certain amount of these idiots that are going to just make fun of me for being weird. And, I'm going to have a lot of adversity here, but, I am going to find my tribe. And so I just kind of had to go at it with the mentality of, they don't like me, forget them. If they like me, they can come in. And
yes, hell yes.
And that's just what I had to do. And fortunately, I did. I found some really solid people who kind of came along beside me and said, "You're not nearly as much of a freak as you think you are. You're still a freak, but you're not as bad as you think you are." And some of those people I still hang out with today. So, I had to go at it from the mentality of, I'm going to make this work. If they don't want to make it work, they're not my problem. Like, I'm not
100%.
responsible for how they're going to behave, how they're going to act. I'm responsible for myself.
100%. Yeah. That's kind of the mentality that I really didn't develop until college and all that. And man, I'm certainly glad I figured it out at the right time. So, Alan, what about you? Wait, let me ask the question again. How did you change your behavior in your relationships during the transition to schools?
Well, I obviously improved my learning and stuff like that whilst at school, and yeah, that helped me with relationships. That improved relationships, even though I still get bullied. Yeah. I remember as a kid when I first started school, I would scribble and colouring and scribble, and I'd have the Mickey taken out of me because I was a bit more slower than the others, and but I improved. I improved with learning, and better communication. So I got better and made more friends that way, and yeah.
Good,
I
very
guess,
nice.
yeah. I mean, I would cry when I was bullied and that, and so I'd
So
either cry or have a tantrum. Yeah.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing that, Alan.
Yeah,
And
no
I can,
problem.
yeah, and I can definitely relate to that. Like, it's just
Yeah.
so frustrating. Like, you can't contain it sometimes. Like, I get that.
Yeah.
I did that in middle school myself.
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
Yeah.
French fries. What about you? How did you change your behavior during middle school?
during middle school?
Yeah, like how did you change your how did your behavior get different from middle school to elementary, from elementary to middle school?
I don't think it changed much. I think I was kind of like the same for a long time. It didn't change, so I was like a little bit more becoming more like teenage like. So I was like high school, in actual high school. But yeah, in elementary, I was still like a little kid. I was still, watching cartoons at home, and I wouldn't, do any drugs or go to parties or anything. I would go to little kiddie parties and stuff, like not kiddie parties, but like I will go to very like innocent parties of kids my age, usually like houses and stuff like that. But they were all really innocent, no drugs or alcohol involved. So I was very, very like a little kid still in my mind, mentality, and for the most part, yeah, I was a really good kid. Never really had problems for extreme behavior. My only problems of behavior, I think my anger issues as I started coming up, as I got older and I started dealing with depression and then drugs and stuff like that. But in that time, my only issue was with the fact that I just, was really oblivious, and I was really kind of like in my own world all the time. And I would, what do you call it when you kind of like drift apart of the world or whatever?
Zoning out.
Huh?
Zoning out.
No, there was another word, but yeah, I would zone out a lot and like kind of like be in my own little world. And I would like to draw a lot. I do a lot of drawing, but I started getting in trouble because my grades started going down. I will be, I guess, the more stress I will get from like the changes of kids being just a little more intense at the time, just made me maybe more like what do you call it, detached, like maybe just kind of like,
yeah, that's a good word.
Yeah, just kind of like that, kind of like be not present in the
Yeah,
moment,
yeah.
more and more and more, and I will kind of like zone out into my drawings, zone out into like just kind of like be in my own little world all the time. I always been a big daydreamer, but especially back then I was a dreamer. So I guess I didn't know that other people, how I looked and how they were, how I was being perceived, but
Yeah.
I guess people picked up on like what is she doing, like why is she acting this way, or I don't know, so I would get a lot of complaints from teachers, always in the principal's office, and the
That's 3 minutes.
Kids teasing me for those things and stuff like that.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I mean, I definitely didn't like it either when like the kids were getting intense and all that. It was stressful to deal with. So what about you, Tasha? How did your behavior adapt from elementary to middle school?
I a lot, actually, honestly. I went from being sort of oblivious to the fact that I was a weirdo to acutely aware of it. And I started paying a lot of attention to like how other people were looking at me and their facial expressions and their body language and their tone of voices and just everything. And I was constantly trying to sort of assess the social situation to see if things were going okay or not. And I would sort of just try to act however I thought I was supposed to. And I did a lot of that for a really long time, like all through high school. It was pretty much, it just became second nature to me to sort of just read the room and sort of adjust my behavior accordingly. And that's how I got through it. It didn't, like I said, didn't really work a lot of the time because as much effort as I put into it, I was still really bad at it. But I did my best. And I've like, I'm 30 now. I think I've gotten pretty good at it at this point, but I still do sometimes catch myself rambling. Like if I start talking about something that I'm really interested in, I will catch myself rambling and look around the room or to whoever I'm talking to, because it's not usually more than one person, and see that they're starting to kind of zone out, but then not care and keep going.
That's fair. That is fair. I do that sometimes myself. All right. Thank you very much, Tasha. So Malachi, how did your behavior change from elementary to middle school?
From elementary to middle school, well, let's start off with elementary because when I was in elementary school from like kindergarten to like middle school, I used to like zone out a lot because it was like hard for me to like focus at times, and it was like hard for me to like process information.
Gotcha.
So whenever the teacher would give me a direction, I felt like that she didn't say anything when she did because it was only for like 10 seconds or 10 minutes or something.
I'm sorry, I didn't really understand that last part. Are you saying like he missed 10 minutes, like you missed 10 minutes of his teaching basically? Because
Yes.
oh, okay. Because you're zoned out and all that?
Yes.
Okay. Have you used any strategies to help fight that?
The strategies that I use, my mom kind of helped usually. She helped me practice on not doing that, and then most time I would usually have an aide in the classroom with me to help me not do that.
Gotcha. All right. Well, I'm glad you were able to work on that 100%. April, you are the final person in this question. How did you change your behavior during the transition to schools?
I don't really know the answer to this question. I don't think I changed my behaviors. I just don't really know. I drank a lot, so maybe that's what happened actually. Maybe it was all that drinking that I did that started to change things, but you never know.
You were drinking in junior high?
Hmm?
You were drinking in junior high?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh.
Like
yeah, I was drinking a lot.
You live in like rural Canada, right?
Yeah. But,
that explains everything.
But I was raised up in the Toronto area. Yeah.
Man.
That still explains that actually explains it even more because I also was in middle school in the Toronto area, and yeah, all the kids were getting drunk.
Yeah, that's the thing. I didn't fit into this school because they didn't drink and do drugs, and I was kind of opposite. But like there was a lot of different situations though from my childhood, right? And also like just not being able to cope and being like sent from foster home to foster home and like the different things. There was so many different things happening, so I can assume that a lot of this had to do with it. But I love to draw and stuff. I always got really good feedback from teachers. I think it was the only good feedback I ever got from school. So what was the question?
Yeah, basically, like, how did you change your behavior in middle school? Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was the answer?
Yeah, I was never good at masking, so I don't think I ever really did that.
Okay. So you're just kind of like, you're just kind of the same person in all areas of life?
Good question. Oh, I don't think that all my behavior was the same. I don't really know.
I got you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Strictly out of curiosity, what's the drink of choice in Canada?
Beer.
Yeah.
When you're a teenager, it's 40s of Old English or Max Ice, which
it's so disgusting, but it's true.
Okay. Yeah.
Or just whatever you can steal from your parents.
Normally, people don't drink alcohol for the taste; they drink it for the feels. But
yeah.
Okay.
French fries. I don't know your actual name. What is it?
Francesca.
Francesca. So yeah, you had said that you had like an innocence about you. Like, you know, like you were like more childlike in a lot of things. And I've always found like throughout my life, I've always been at least like 10 years behind, no matter what.
Me too. I always been to this day, I'm really immature. But I learned a lot of things that can resemble maturity. but yeah, like I would for a long time I would lie about my age because I knew that if I say like, oh, I'm 21, I'm acting like a 16-year-old, people would be like, what's wrong with you? You're weird.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, 100%. I'm the same way. Like I am more mature in a lot of things, but I'm also like really behind on some things in life, and it just kind of like balances out to the way it is.
Yeah, same
So
here.
yeah. You feel less mature in some areas, Alan?
Who? Me?
Alan, you're saying you feel immature in some areas?
I feel, yeah, mature in some areas and immature in others, you know. Yeah,
And I appreciate this vulnerable conversation.
yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
All right, we got one more question here, and then we're gonna wrap it up. Hopefully, we can get the two parts around the same time, but it's all good.
Oh, quick announcements as we're taking the commercial that we're talking about being mature. That's why I made a couple of my recent videos are about adulting and autism, and I give really good tips on what helped me.
Yeah, I will definitely post that link.
Yeah, I would like to have that one.
Final question here. What advice would you give autistic middle school students right now who are not sure how to navigate this very difficult system? Go ahead, Gil.
As someone who grew up outside of the public school system, or even really the I guess would be the construction of the private school system, I don't really feel like I have a whole lot I could say about school, but I think I can talk a lot about life as a whole. You got to understand that where you're at right now is not permanent. Things are going to change a lot. In 10 years from now, the problems that are your daily problems today are not going to be your problems then. Most of the people that are probably pushing your buttons, bullying you, aggravating you, doing whatever they do that makes your life miserable are not necessarily going to be in your life. The people that used to give me the most grief when I was an elementary school age or even as a teenager, I don't have to see those people. They moved away, or I moved away, or we just grew up and got over the petty stuff. I think that you're at a point right now where you have the ability to find things that you're good at and focus on those. It's no secret that people on the spectrum tend to have special giftings, things that they're better at than neurotypical people even. And find the strengths that you have and learn to exploit that and charge people money for access to that talent later. For me, I have a very good ability to like laser sharp focus in on something. For another friend of mine, he is incredibly technical. He charges a lot of money for his skills. So learn a skill, find people who do understand you and believe in what you're trying to do, latch onto those people, and make that your tribe. Don't worry about the people who don't like you. They're not going to ever like you. And that's not your problem. It's not your job to make them like you. If they don't like you, they want to make your life miserable, you got to understand that their life at home, or their internal battle they're fighting, is not your own. They probably have a whole lot going on. Again, it's not your problem. And, that's going to be a thing. Hopefully you don't find yourself trapped by the circumstances that are your realities today. Hopefully they're not your realities tomorrow or next week, next month.
You gotta surround yourself with people that make you a better person, or that are like in your same vibe.
Iron sharpens iron.
Yeah.
So, for me, it was really powerful when I found a group of people that they said, okay, you're weird. You're one of us now. And, like, they let me into that group of people. And it wasn't a clique. It wasn't, you know, on Tuesdays we wear pink or whatever. But it was definitely, it was a group of people that accepted me at face value, and I guarantee there are people out there who will accept you at face value. And you know, like I said, your problems today, if you're, you know, if you're in that under 18 age, your like day-to-day problems, your responsibilities, you have, what kind of responsibilities do you even have? What are you really responsible for? Yourself. So figure out what you can do today that is going to make your life better in, say, 18 years, 20 years down the line. What can you do today to say, this is what is going to ultimately make my life better? Don't worry about the people that don't understand you. They never really are going to be your strong followers, more than likely. I will say there are exceptions, because I had kids that started following me as adults, like, hey, you know, you actually weren't so weird, you're kind of cool now. You know, and I've had to reconcile that as an adult at 34. But you know, that's my advice.
100%. Thank you so much, Caleb. Man, I'm sure that a lot of kids will really be able to appreciate that. Man, I hope people see that advice. That is incredible. Alan, what about you? What advice would you give to current autistic middle school students?
Yeah, well, just to ignore the bullies and that, and if they don't like you, they don't like you. Just ignore them. Just tell the teacher if they're bullying you, or you know, or tutor at college, you know, and make friends with the ones that like you, and make more friends that like you that way, and you know, yeah, and you know, in 18 to 20 years, you never know where you'll be. You know, you'll have lots of friends and that, and the ones that don't like you won't hopefully be bothering you. You know, they'd have moved on and gone somewhere else, and you'd have gone somewhere else, and you know, you've gone your separate ways, and you know, you wouldn't be seeing each other again. You know, of course, unless it was over Facebook, where the bullies could get hold of your Facebook profile and start bullying you that way, but always block and delete.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and police if necessary, if it just continues. Yeah.
Well, I personally know that you are very experienced with taking care of yourself and like putting yourself first. So thank you for that, Alan. All right, French fries. What advice would you give to current autistic middle school students who are struggling right now?
Autistic what students?
The current autistic middle school students who are really struggling with the system, basically.
Well, there's so much to cover, but honestly, watching videos on YouTube really helps, because there's so many good tips that I have found on YouTube. I'm like, wow, like I wish this would have been, I wish I would have gotten into YouTube like way before this. I just kind of recently started getting more and more into YouTube, but that there's so many good tips, a lot of like motivational help in there that people can just kind of like find a lot easier than just sometimes, you know, people around you just don't have the right answers to a situation, and just kind of like watching a lot of these, you know, helpful tips and helpful motivational videos on YouTube can really help. But also it's just that when you're in junior high, like all kids are going through a huge state of immaturity and misbehaving and stuff like that, and hormones out of control and everything. So I think that the best tip is to not take things personal. Just know that when somebody is misbehaving or being mean to you, it's just them projecting themselves. Don't take things, you know, don't listen to what they're saying. Words can be very hurtful, but you can allow them to hurt you if you want to. So if you don't allow those words to really mean anything to you, that they're not going to. So just pretty much the best advice. Like a lot of times people say things they don't mean, or say things when they're mad, or they might have problems in their own home. You know, even other autistics can be, you know, bullies and mean too. So it's just a very crazy world. So at the end of the day, we have to go to school with people with all kinds of different backgrounds. Just have to understand that if somebody's being mean or just being nasty, just feel sorry for them. You know, that they might be having a really hard time, and they just are gonna always have problems in life because of that nasty behavior, or they're just nasty on the inside, and it's not you, it's them being assholes, and nothing justifies treating you know, belittling another person, or making you feel bad because they don't find you cool, or they don't find you da da da, or they think you're weird, you know. And the fact that they go out of their way to let you know this, it just makes them very miserable, sad people. But it's not you. Just don't take things personal, and just, you know, always try. I always like taking criticism from my friends and be like, Francesca, da da, think before you speak, and da da. So that helped me kind of like, I also wanted to watch how things that I was doing that could have possibly be hurting other people. So I try to change for the better. But you know, there are certain comments that can be really, really hurtful. So I try to take like comments and be like, okay, this is gonna help me. I'm gonna try to watch, you know, work on this. But that right there is just an insult. I'm going to ignore that, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, fantastic advice. Yeah. I especially agree about the one, like, you don't know what your bully is going through, basically. So just kind of like try to see if that works itself out. I really like that. Tasha, what advice would you give?
Well, it's sort of twofold. So the first part of it is just to always be like your authentic self, because that's the only way that you're gonna find the people that you know, like the people that that you can be yourself with, and like the people that you're gonna like be true friends with. But like, as important as it is to always be yourself and not compromise on who you are, it's also really important to, I think, be able to read the room, because you have to remember that we don't live in a bubble. And I think that it's really, really easy to sort of forget that sometimes. And like, we have to exist in a community and in society with other people. And sometimes that means, you know, reading the room and taking other people's feelings into consideration in terms of, you know, what you're doing. And like, don't necessarily like be yourself, but like, you know, if you're clearly making somebody uncomfortable by what you're saying, maybe don't say that. Stuff like that. So I think it can be really helpful to sort of just study. Like I studied a lot of psychology and social cues and like facial expressions and that kind of stuff, and like just actually studying that kind of stuff and learning what those things mean, and being able to read people that way, and then not changing who you are accordingly. That's what you need to avoid, but just sort of editing the way that you act so that you can get through social situations easier sometimes.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, that's kind of the goal with all us Aspies. It's to like be as comfortable as possible and like navigate this as easily as possible, still being yourself.
Yeah, I was gonna say to what you said, pretty much learn how to take criticism, because sometimes criticism can be really helpful, and
don't
know how to take criticism or advice at all. So they get mad because it's like, oh, why everybody's so mean to me, nobody understands that. It's like, okay, you're not perfect human either. You know, you also have to put a little bit of your place too, so you don't cause these reactions. The moment I started changing a lot of my behaviors, a lot of my approaches, a lot of things, which I talk about this on my channel, that's the day that I started seeing changes in the people changing around me. So definitely, you know, every action has a reaction.
Yeah. So I was just the final point that I was gonna say was that just it's a very fine line to walk, I think, between being yourself and being somebody that can get along with people in society.
It takes a lot of practice.
Yeah.
and like I'm still learning that now to this day, and I think that, you know, like I'm definitely getting, I think I'm getting there, because I find now that I am being myself, when I go out into a group and I meet new people, people are immediately like, "Oh, you're a cool person. I like you." As opposed to before, it was just like, I just, I think I gave off weird vibes because I was not being authentic.
Sure, yeah.
I feel like everybody has little aspects of themselves and of their personality. And
Right.
It's just a matter of knowing how to show that one aspect of our lives that could, that could interact with other people. People can see like the best side of us. Because when I think with autistics, many times we kind of like throw everything just kind of like really oddly in a way where like people, we rub people the wrong way. They take us differently, and then they don't really get to really see like that good side of us, like what makes us, what makes us unique, what makes us funny, what makes us, cool and stuff like that. What's cool about us to hang out. So we don't know how to, sell ourselves in the right way, and just about learning how to do that. I think it's important.
At the same time, though, I think you do have to find, like, once you find those people who accept you for who you are, then you're going to be able to be a little more out there with them, and they're going to be able to understand, like,
Yeah.
It goes both ways. And I think that's what it comes down to, is you have to, it's hard and it can take a long time, but eventually you will find like those people that you can have in your life that you really care about and that really care about you. And like, it's sort of like an unconditional friendship sort of thing. Like sometimes I'm going to be a dick and we're going to fight, but like at the end of the day, we're still friends.
Yeah, they'll be able to see all the sides of you, and they'll be fine with it. They're going to understand you as human, but because they know the good in you, that the good in you needs to be, bigger than, your bad sides and stuff, or your bad low moments and stuff.
100%. Yeah. Thank you both very much. So we're going to go to Malachi and then April, and then we're going to wrap this up, guys. So Malachi, what advice would you give to current middle school autistic students?
I would say do the best that you can and ignore the bullies. The bullies, they're just doing things, they're just saying those mean things to upset you, but don't let that stop you from being who you are. Just be yourself.
Very good. Anything else you'd like to add?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Thank you, Malachi. Yeah, absolutely. Just be yourself. Yeah, that seems to be the general stance here, so I appreciate that. April, final thoughts on advice you can give to middle school students.
Yeah, I think all of this advice has been good. And if you stand your ground, you're not hurting anyone, and you're not bothering anyone, and you stand your ground, and then people will back down eventually if you just be who you are and do what you do. If you're not hurting anyone or bothering anyone, you're just doing what you do, right?
Yeah.
Hold your ground, you should be all right. But it's like, at first it sucks, because sometimes you hold your ground, you're going to be who you are, and then like you can't cover it up, right? So then people just think you're a freak or whatever. But if you continue on just being who you are, you will attract the people who are like you.
Yeah, definitely. All right, well, I think we have a general advice that we all agree with. And I definitely appreciate all of you coming on. Caleb, I appreciate you being a first timer. That's awesome. And I know Bryce and JP aren't here, but I appreciate their presence as well. So with that being said, everyone, my name is Alex's Autism Acceptance Channel. I am out. See you guys next month.
Thank
Bye,
you,
guys.
Alex.
Thank you.
Bye, buddy.
Bye.
Bye.